people have this opinion that, okay, this person is not supposed to get the grant, this person is supposed to get the grant. So how do you actually get the grant from Superteam?
First of all, it's not necessarily about how old you've been in Superteam Nigeria or how new. We have some members of the internal team that has not gotten grants yet. We have people that just came in this year and have gotten grants. So it's not a nepotism stuff that, oh, like, you don't do for long and get grants, but you feel right. No.
From your own experience, how can someone now evolve in Superteam, and evolving from being a writer to a Superteam member, being a member to probably a moderator?
I evolved in the ecosystem is as a result of hard work. Because I spoke about kindness, so it looked as if it was because I was kind. Not necessarily, right? Other state mods did not necessarily see Ari before they became state mod. Coming into the ecosystem, show your work, prove yourself, you'll be recognized. You go through all of this process. There's someone that caused a lot of issues for us. You know, she got a grant, after sort of village, right? And she got huge grants, so to speak. And people were just talking. But nobody really saw that for the 5 days she came, or for the 4 days she came, she was shooting content.
All right, welcome to another episode of Web3 Club Podcast. And today is a very special episode of the podcast. We're going to be answering a very, a kind of hot question that has been on everybody's mouth. In the past month on Superteam Nigeria, they started giving out a lot of grants. And a lot of people have been asking, how do I get grants? So today we're going to be putting an end to that question, right? And there's no other person to do it than someone who is actually, one of the leads in Superteam Nigeria. So let's zoom out. First of all, okay, you can introduce yourself. Let's meet you, your name and what you do.
All right, so Wisdom Joseph, but people rarely know me as that, so they call me Monarch. So I'm Monarch. I'm the head of events for Superteam. Also the head of membership in Superteam. So yeah, that's basically what I do, why I'm in Superteam.
The journey in Web3, how did you get into Web3? And then you can now also zoom into how you got to know about Superteam, right? So let's get that.
Okay, so I've always known about crypto. I've known about crypto since 2018, 2019. But I didn't venture into it, not because of fear or anything. The major reason why I didn't enter into crypto Web3 is also the reason why I didn't go into web development, right? Because I felt like prosperity is not necessarily in the trend, right? It's what is trending, is in what you are doing. You could be prosperous even as a sweeper, so to speak. So I didn't venture into it 2018, 2019. One of my closest friends till date, invested into Bitcoin and the likes. But fast forward to 2022, right? I kind of got an inclination stroke release to go into the crypto space. And of course, most of the people that get onboarded into the space start with testnet, right? So I ventured into testnet, and one of the things that happens is that once I get into something, I put my all into it. So that's why I don't do so many things, right? So I started doing testnet. It was my final year in school at the time. There was a time I ever sat down with like 23 projects, did like testnets. And of course, out of the 23 projects, maybe just one or two, yielded. The rest, I didn't want to start mentioning their names, $1 here and there, other people, different criteria and the likes. So with that, there was a little bit of frustration, right? Because I knew that, trading was not something I wanted to go into without the proper skill. So I never ventured into trading. So I started going for events, a lot of events back to back, 2023 into 2024. So it was 2024. I got tired of events because I attended a lot of events. 2023, of course, same things were repeated, boring events, so to speak. And in February 2024, I saw a flyer, community mixer.
Okay.
And I was skeptical because at this point I was already tired of events, running through 2023 from August to December. Was in almost all the events you could mention. So when I saw the event, I was like, nah, I'm not going for this one. Then my roommate, my friend that was in crypto, of course, he delayed. He was no longer in crypto for a while. So he saw the event and he said, oh, he has already registered. I'm like, if you have registered, you are no longer in crypto actively, and you've registered, that maybe I should also register for the event. And it turned out that so he said he knew the person, and we'll get to the story, of the person in the course of my conversation. He said he knew the person, or saying the person was a top marketer in the space, and the like. So I said, oh, okay, let me see. So I registered. And when I got to the event, it was not like any crypto event I've ever attended. There was no conversation, so to speak. You come, someone will come, do a conference, talk. Nah, it was just come, eat, mingle, have fun, and go home. Right. So, and that's why I met Ariobi.
Okay.
And after that event, so I got his contact, he got mine. We started talking. Then that was in February 2024. After then, there was another event. Right, which evolved into so many other states doing this ecosystem called IRL. Right, so I went for that event, the ecosystem call, so that this was fun again. No boring talk, right? Watching cash talk on the screen, and then again there was like fun, like you were just talking to each other. Nobody coming to tell you that, oh, this is what you should invest in, blah blah blah. And after then, because I got into the space, I've always been a writer before Web3, right? So before now, I forgot to mention this. I started to do trades, win a lot of trade competitions here and there. So then in February into March, there was a writers hackathon, which was the first. I'd always had that vision that, there should be a writers hackathon, sometime happening. I don't know. I did not put a timeline, but I always had it in mind that it should happen. So it happened, right? OXMet facilitated that, as well as so many other sponsors, right? So then we had a build station for writers. So I attended that event again in early March or late February. Then March ecosystem call, right? I also went for the March ecosystem call. So by this time I attended like 4 events by that time. So basically that is how I got into Superteam.
How did you come about planning Solana Superteam? Because you've attended quite a lot of events and you've seen what works and what does not work. So was that what actually shaped the whole plan of Solana Superteam, Solana Startup Village? And yes, let's just talk about that. How did you go about planning that?
Okay. So before Web3, right, I used to plan lots of church events. Okay. Right. Church events. I also have media experience. I've been a photographer and cinematographer and also a graphic designer. Right. Of course, this particular, because people like, you have been doing a lot of things. This spans for like 6 to 8 years. So it's not just I picked up the 3 skills and was doing everything at the same time. Right. So from graphic design, so I evolved as my then, you could say mentor evolved. So he evolved from graphic design to photography, then to cinematography. So I evolved with him. Right now, he's one of the biggest TV commercial producers or directors you can think about.
Who's that? Sorry.
Oluwada Best.
Oluwada Best.
Yes. Oluwada Best. So already that has shaped what I want to see in an event, what I don't want to see. Right. Now coming into Superteam and seeing how their events, are being done. Right. Remember I said that lots of events that had gone from boring and dry. So I said, this is not something I was going to do when I become the event lead, or now that I'm the event lead, rather. I was the event lead I've been the event lead since June, as I was the Lagos State moderator for Superteam Nigeria. So I was handling both responsibilities at the time. So having done lots of events, managed events happening in 20-something states till later it became 30 states. So I had like the major Solana gathering, right, in the country, right? I could say Africa at the time. So there were a lot of things that I did not want to say, a lot of things that I said, this is what I want. This is how I was going to go about it. I had to understudy major Solana events in the world, right? I had to understudy how was Breakpoint achieved. I had to understudy how was Startup Village UK achieved. I had to go through some templates, right? To say, okay, this is how it should be. This is how it should not be, and it's pivoted from the stage design to the lighting, to the cinematographers and photographers I had to pick, to all the vendors basically. So yes, you could say having this experience, this media experience, right? Planning events, even before Web3, and then having been in Superteam and planned events from that, June till now, really shaped how I planned Startup Village here.
Now, I would like to ask, because you've had quite an amazing journey, from like evolving from a graphic designer and all, and then coming into Web3, you're also a writer, right? And then you also mentioned that you've won some, threads here and there. So, and then I would like to, just for someone out there listening, how can someone now evolve in the Superteam world now? You're a writer. Okay, just join as a newbie. You have a skill. And evolving from being a writer to a Superteam member, being a member to probably a moderator, and then being from a moderator. So like, what's from your own experience, from being a writer to Lagos, to a member, to Lagos State's, moderator, and then being an event. What do you think has helped you?
Okay, so I would say that the first thing that happened, like I'll share a little bit of story of how I became the Lagos State moderator.
Okay.
So I think it's natural to me. And when I mean natural to me, I'm talking about kindness now, right? So I think kindness, at least people say, right, and I think it's true that I'm a kind person.
Okay.
So on the March ecosystem call, I saw Ari very tired, right, and I was like, you look very
March
stressed.
Ecosystem call, that was last
March,
year.
yes,
Okay.
March last year,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I saw Ari very tired. He looked very stressed.
Okay.
I was like, oh, okay, let me just go up to him. And I went to him. I said, you look very stressed and tired. He was like, yeah, he is. And he has like 3 to 4 meetings after the ecosystem call. I was like, what? I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but I'll say this, at the time, there was congestion on Lagos Road. So traffic was very, very, hectic. Transportation was very high. So Ari was, having to support some people, with transport for boats, and the like. So I was like, okay, instead of all this stress, why not the next time we have this event, we have it on the mainland, right? Because we're having it, I don't know if it's free ad for them. Let me just say it. We're having it at Cafe One. Like I was like, there's Cafe One in Yaba. Let's move the event to Cafe One in Yaba. That's no longer on the island. And it was just like, we're not going to host ecosystem call again in Lagos. It was too tired and he had to move on to other things. Then 2 days later, he just messaged me. He said, you'll be the Lagos State moderator. And
2 days later after that?
Yes, 2 days later after the conversation,
Wow.
you'll be the Lagos State moderator and you'll be hosting the next ecosystem call. That was in April. So that's how I became Lagos State mod, right? And I couldn't had entered at a better or worse time, but hackathon season. So I entered, I became a Lagos State mod during the hackathon season last year, Colosseum. And so I had to, host the Hacka Hostel where we brought like 10 developers come in the same space, right? And just build, connect and learn. And then I had to host ecosystem call. So I planned the Hacka Hostel, planned the April ecosystem call because they were happening at the same time. So yes, after then I became a member, right? When I became a member by being the state mod at the time, but also showing promise, so to speak, because I'd attended events, the writers, build station, I participated in the writers hackathon, I was at Lagos State mod, so I showed premise and promise, right? So it was not necessarily about, it was a gift, because that's what people make that kind of mistake, right? I'll still talk about membership, so let me still do a bit of run through. Then from being the Lagos State moderator, April, May, then June, right? We were planning our hangout for all the internal team members offsite. So we had to fly in people from all over the country to come to Lagos for, just a weekend to chill, right? Learn, see the people we've been working with. I had to plan it. So automatically a new position, a new role was filled, right? And that was, I became the event lead, right? Again, I became the event lead was not a gift, so to speak. It's because of a lot of actions that Ari had seen, right? Before June, right? Suggestions here and there, conversations here and there. Said, okay, you know what? We need an event lead. We need someone to be managing, events. So that's how I became. So all of this, roles or I evolved in the ecosystem is as a result of hard work, right? It's not necessarily that, we just see you and then, nah. And that is why I'm always careful in this conversation because I spoke about kindness. So it looked as if because I was kind, not necessarily, right? Other state mods did not necessarily see Ari, right? Before he became state mod. It was in the, at the offsites that Ari saw most of the people we were working with because Ari had not been to most of the states, right? But because most of these people came based on someone's recommendation from the already existing, internal team members. And there was proof of work. Right. For example, there was a lady that was supposed to manage one of the eastern states, and I knew her personally because I had the writers community. Right. So she was known on the timeline, and she had participated in a lot of bounties. So I said, this kind of person already knows what we do in the ecosystem. Let's make her a moderator for this state. So it's people's efforts, right, that brought them to that position. Right. It was not necessarily a gift, and this is how it applies to everything about Superteam. Right. It's not necessarily that we know you. And they're like, so we should give you a role or we should give you a grant, right? Even we, the members of internal teams, we still go through a lot of scrutiny, right? Because it's not a case of nepotism, right? Oh, because you're part of the Tala team, you should get this. Why should you get this, right? So yeah, coming into the ecosystem, show your work, prove yourself, you'll be recognized. So that's how you evolve in the ecosystem in Superteam Nigeria.
People have this opinion that, okay, most of the people getting grants currently, yeah, because I've seen a lot of opinion on Twitter. So even personally, like friends have reached out to me, okay, guy, you're part of Superteam. What's happening there? So people have a lot of opinions, and they're like, this person is not supposed to get a grant. This person is supposed to get a grant. Okay, I've checked this person's page. I didn't see anything. What's going on? So how do you actually get a grant from Superteam?
Okay, this particular conversation is always with a lot of controversies. Now, if you say you get a lot of DMs, I bet you I get 50x of that. Right?
As I can imagine.
I get 50x of that question. How do I get a grant? Or I'm doing this, I'm doing that. In fact, now I'm skeptical about joining spaces, right? Even as a guest, as a listener, because most times they want to bring me up. And I know the reason why they want to bring me up is to ask, how do I get a grant? Honestly speaking, right? So I've gotten a grant. I got a grant September, October.
Okay. Well, we remember.
Yes, I've been a member since April already. So grants are basically, and let me first of all say this: grants are not our focus for the Nigerian ecosystem. Yes, they help. Let's not lie, right? Of course, when you look at what the grants can do for you as a person, they help a lot. But that's not our focus. Our focus is for you to compete with the top guys in the world. We want you to get a job. We want to have bragging rights. That Mattis is working with Sanctum, right? Funsho is working with Jupiter. When I mean working, like actively working and getting pay. Right? We want you to be able to afford flights to this event, to Singapore, to Dubai, to US, to Canada, to UK. We want you to be able to afford this, event without sponsorship. Like you just wake up and say, oh, okay, there's an event going on in Istanbul. I can go. Right? That is our goal. Right? So, most of the times I take people away from that conversation. Right? Because grant is the highest grant we could give, right? Superteam NJ could give at the time is 10K. That is the highest. Right? And there's a lot of process on you getting it a second time. Right? You might not even get it at all. Right? So why not think about how you could get 110K a salary for a year? That is how we want the Nigerian folks to think around or think about how you could get up to 150K, how you can get 180K as your salary, right? For a year. Because the grant most of the time is one-off. Right? And sometimes the grants might even come at a time whereby bills don't pile up, right? A lot of things are piled up, bills here and there. The economy is crashing, rising, like it's not stable, right? You might lose your focus when you get your grants. Of course, now there are systems, and I'll talk about this, to make sure that you are doing what you said you're going to do. Right? But in the long run, so to speak, of course, not to downplay any skill. So I'll speak as a writer. I can rugged it and say, okay, 15 articles. I don't really need inspiration like that. In 1 week, I feel cover the 15 articles, right? And then I just say this 1 week, I go use like 100K. Maybe I go book hotel, buy food, do everything that. I go just finish them. Once I don't finish them, I go blow the remaining money, right? Of course, people might argue this is not how everybody thinks. It's not even how I think, but it's the situation we find ourselves in, right? So, well, let me try to arrange it back. So, back to the question: how do you get a grant? First of all, proof of work. Right now, of course, we know Twitter X is like the major place where we see your proof of work, right? But at the same time, there are some people that are just starting a particular skill, right? That do not have any Twitter following, do not have any proof, so to speak. But they've shown prospect in their respective guilds. So we have design guilds, we have content creator guilds, we have the writers guilds, we have the dev guilds, we have the AI robotics guild, and we have the product guild. They've shown up for meetings. They showed up for each of these physical events, IRL events, and the likes. And somewhere around their states, we know they are actively participating. So, for example, there was even a lot of drama around some people that got grants this period. They're like, they went through their page, they not see anything, blah, blah, blah. You're not at the back. You're not in the conversation that is happening at the back. Right? Now, what happens at the back is that there's a lot of scrutiny before a person gets a grant. right? There's a lot of process. First of all, your state board has to vouch for you. So if your state board does not know you, you're not connected to the state, you've not attended events in the states, right? Your guild leads in that particular state do not know you. Now, the general guild leads, like the national guild leads, do not know you. Your regional lead does not know you, right? So even before the conversation, then we go through your Twitter page, right? We see, okay, how active have you been in the Solana ecosystem? It's really Superteam Nigeria. How active have you been? Okay, it's not necessarily about, oh, you post every time and then. We even check your retweets and quote retweets. We check your comments, right? Of course, this is like alpha now, right? So people will see this and they'll start, going to. So we do all of this. We see, okay, what have you done in your states? What have you said as an idea, so to speak, right? For example, how did I get a grant? I got a grant to do, because around the time we wanted to do Vox Pops, talk about, the Solana ecosystem in Lagos, Nigeria, right? Though Ari said we should change the idea, I should change the idea and do a community playbook, right? But that was the idea. It was something that was not done popularly at the time. And people that were doing it with low-end materials, right? So either they use a phone or they use a mic that's not so quality, right? So it was not proper production. So I saw that, I was like, oh, let me do Vox Pops on the street of Lagos. But at the same time, the focus at the time was like, oh, okay, is this what we want right now? Is this going to bring, what will be the end goal, right, for us? How would this convert to the growth of the Solana ecosystem at the time, right? So that's why the idea was paused and changed and refurbished. And I submitted a new idea, right, to, as a writer, to submit a community playbook, right? So all of this goes like into processes. We literally have calls where statements will recommend someone. And on that same call, right, we open your Twitter page. We go through your page, right? We see conversations. Now, at the same time, right, we also look through conversations you've had with other people and other ecosystem, right? Because, of course, we are not necessarily auditing you, right? But at the same time, we want your talent to stay with us. So if we see that you're more of a chain upper, you go here, which is not bad. Again, which is not bad. You're not an eternal team member. You're not part of the core people of Superteam. Do you understand? So of course you can up change, right? But people have issues with this. But you don't see someone working with the Indomie brand, right? Also working with the Mini Noodles brand, right? Because I don't know why we have that kind of issue. Or you don't see someone working with Kia, right? Kia Motors, and working with maybe Peugeot. Now I don't even know if they're the same company, but you get like the conversation, sure. Right? In fact, there's a conversation that happened recently on Twitter, on X, around how someone from Pepsi or someone from Coke, I think someone from Coke, wanted to sell, wanted to sell Coke's secret ingredients to Pepsi. Or I don't know if I'm mixing it. And Pepsi, reported or messaged Coke that someone is trying to sell your trade secrets and all. That's how it should be. Focus on where you are at the time. Right? We know that, opportunities come and they go. You might see, oh, maybe now you've gotten enough from Solana ecosystem and in the next 2 years, another ecosystem rises and you feel like you will do better there. Of course. But we focus more on the people that show prospect on our ecosystem. Right? And it's not necessarily about how old you've been in Superteam Nigeria or how new. That's another, what you call it. We have, again, this internal gist. We have some members of the internal team that has not gotten grants yet. Right? We have people like that. And we have people that just came in this year and have gotten grants. So it's not a nepotism stuff that, oh, you don't do for long and I get grants. Maybe you feel all right. No. You go through all of this process. There's someone that caused a lot of issues for us. She got a grant after sort of village. Right? And she got huge grants, so to speak. And people were just talking. But nobody really saw that for the 5 days she came, or for the 4 days she came, she was shooting content. Right? For those days, and we love the content, like, oh, okay, we see what you're doing. Okay, take this grant and let's see what you can do more. And she's doing right now, she's organizing a class, right, for content, for the content grid, and it's free, right? So that's how the grant works. Lot of scrutiny. You come through recommendations, right? And sometimes, this is a secret. Sometimes, Ari goes through the timeline, right? Ari goes through the timeline and he sees some people like, oh, okay, he's the one that brings, for example, when I was Lagos State Mod, he was the one that brought in a name to me. That, do I know this person? I said, like, yes, this is the person that does this. I don't want to say his role, And it was like, oh, he should get a grant. I was not the one that recommended him. Ari was the one that recommended him to me, right? Based on what he saw on Twitter, on X, right? So that's why it happens. Sometimes Ari can just be going through, to X, and it says, oh, this person's content. Oh, this person is a which state. It will just ask this person is a which state. Oh, what about this person? We have a conversation about the person, and I say, okay, do you think, right? And that's one thing about Ari. He also asks, do you think this person should get a grant now? Right? Do you think this person, so lots of conversations happen, and it applies to even membership, right? In fact, we had to release like an official way to be a member because it was causing a lot of noise, right? So even when it was without a proper structured way where everybody got to know about it, the same process applied. Your state mod, journal mod, we literally have a meeting when your name is brought as a recommendation. A lot of conversations happens around it. So yeah, as an advice, keep on building.
Okay.
Keep on building what you are doing, right? And know this, right? Our focus is not necessarily grant. Is that you compete with the big guys over, in the world. And that is why even when job comes into the ecosystem, I was like, okay, which member of your state can handle this? Right? And then, okay, say, oh, recommend the person. That's how it works. And lots of people in states have gotten, jobs. In fact, someone is so good, she's in Abuja, right? That Ari has recommended that for, to shoot another project, another ecosystems work, not a Solana work, right? Because of her skill. Of course, she's still with us. We don't play with her, right? Because she's that valuable to us. So that's how it is, right? It's as simple and complicated as this.
Wow. Okay, you say you recommend someone now for a grant. Is there like a question of like you're asking the question, okay, mention or list the things that you want to do in this grant, and then how do you go about making sure that this person is actually doing what they say they would do? Like that system you mentioned.
Yeah. They'll say, okay, what would we know that you have achieved what you said you were going to do? So, for example, for me, it was 10 articles, right? If I remember, it was 10 articles that I had to submit. I say, okay, by this time, this project, the reason for the grant, the rationale for the grant is achieved, right? So now when you're submitting that, you submit all of those details, your milestones and the likes, to your state mod. So your state mod is going to be monitoring you, right? And we ourselves, or let me put it this way, because we have a team in charge of grants. Let me put this disclaimer, I'm not in that team. So
Monarch is not in that team.
Monarch is not on that team. So people in that team, right, are in charge of monitoring your progress. I'm not on that team, right? So please stop DMing me, right? Okay. So we have people that are in charge of it. So they ask your state mod to follow the progress because it's like a full sheet where we know everybody that's collected grants, the amount they've collected, what they want to achieve, the milestone they set, right? So if they say after 5 weeks, I'm going to do this, we are monitoring that, right? Your state mod will reach out to you. What's up with this? What's up with that? Right? So it's not that, oh, you just collect money and then you go to sleep, right? You have to actively and actually do the work you said you were going to do, right? So yeah, that's it about that. Okay.
So you mentioned you got a grant. Just like give us that experience. How was it? Receiving the grant, how it felt, and then, the amount at that time. Yeah. And then, just give us that experience, how it feels.
Okay. Yeah, so I got a 2K grant.
Okay.
One of the highest at the time with, at the time.
Yeah.
When I mean at the time, so there were people that had gotten grants for products and the projects they built for the past hackathon.
Yeah.
Right. So 2K was like the first, major grant for non-dev scale.
Okay.
Right. On non-projects. Yeah. Right. So it was like 2 people, 3 people got that 2K. Now there was an issue, right? There's an issue with payment at the time.
Okay.
So I did not get my grant, the first tranche, which is 50% of the 2K, 1K, was like 3 weeks later.
Oh.
Normally, am I supposed to say this? Normally, it's not supposed to take that long. Let me not say how long it's supposed to take.
Okay.
Right? But I did not get it until like 3 weeks later. Of course, every time I was refreshing wallet. Right? It was like, I need money because it was actually a project I needed to do at the time. Right? So the project I chose, right, is something I'm still passionate about.
Okay.
Right? And is community building.
Okay.
Right? Most of the people that have built community, and this is not to push back on anybody's hard work, right? But most of the people that have built community based on airdrops, which is not wrong.
Okay.
Airdrop farming, sometimes you say, some fake giveaways, right? First person to comment GM will get this and that, and all those things. But I was passionate about actual community building, and I'd seen how Superteam went about community building. I was like, okay, this is something I need to write about as a writer, right?
Okay.
As a writer. So that's what got me to get into that project, writing about community, so that every person that wants to start a project today, especially in Nigeria, can just pick it up and say, okay, this is what I need, this is what I need, this is what I need. Just reading through that particular project.
you're getting the grant, are you supposed to bring in more people into Superteam, or like what's the target?
It's not necessarily about onboarding.
Okay, it's
right? It's not necessarily about onboarding. It's more about talking around and building around the Solana ecosystem. Right? So you cannot get a Solana grant and be talking about another project.
Sure.
Right? So anything you're doing, content, your development, your writing, right, your designing should be around the Solana ecosystem. But there's no add-on rule, and that is why you have to deliver, because you are basically the one choosing what you want to do. So there's no dictating for you. So if you say, oh, and that's why we ask you, what do you want to use the grant for? So that we can hold you when you're not delivering.
Yes.
Right? So there's no, we dictate for you. And then because what if you don't deliver? You put it back to us that, we're the ones that chose it for you. So you're the one that selects what you want to do. Right? And then you go with it.
All right. For someone like the girl you mentioned, right, from the startup village, you said she created content.
Yeah.
And, like a lot of people like tagged and just complain about she receiving a grant.
Yeah.
So someone like that, how would she choose? Because she came into the space, right? She created amazing content for the 4 days, 5 days event, and then you guys saw and you loved it. So you wanted to. So how, like, what was the milestone? What was the goal around someone like someone you're choosing, like Superteam is you like this person's content, you like this person's work.
Yeah.
So what's going to be like the main goal for that person to achieve?
Again, she's the one that will select what she wants to achieve.
Okay, she's
right.
selected.
She's the one going to choose. We just say, oh, there's a grant option for you.
Okay.
Right. Of course, we give you the unspoken rules.
Okay.
Right. Which to some extent you should know. Yeah. Right. That don't go outside of the Solana ecosystem in terms of what you want to do. Yeah. Right. So what you want to do, like now, one of the things she said, I don't have the full details of what she said she wanted to do. Yeah. Right. But I'm aware now she's, having a class to do content as she used to do. Yeah. Right. And she has been going around Solana based events. She was in an event in was it Bangkok or so, right? And also FUNAB, not so sure, right? Of the two to shoot a Solana based event. Right. So she's the one that chooses a milestone, chooses what she wants to do. Right. We just say, let it be around the Solana ecosystem in general.
Okay. So for the vision of grants, is it something we are still going to like get more of? And are there like the vision? Let's talk about the vision now. Where do you see the grants? Like people getting grants, or for now is it just going to just turn back to just mainly developers or more of content creators? And the vision of grants.
So the major people that got grants this period, I can count the developers.
Okay.
Right. It was majorly people around the content, and if you are in the Lagos ecosystem group, right, you see that there was a conversation, I think early this year, saying that, it's only developers getting grants. And then it was like, 10 writers or 15 writers or so just got grants, content people getting grants. So it's still going to evolve, right? Of course, we want people to, because most of the times the reason why developers seem to be the one to get grants, because developers, the future of developers or projects, not necessarily developers, right? Because you can be a developer and you're not building anything. So the future for builders and developers, so to speak, developers now in this context is people building, right? Is that they will continue to get grants because we hope that they scale, we hope that they get big, and then they now employ people from the Nigeria ecosystem.
Okay.
Just so one way or the other, builders like sort of make sure the ecosystem grows bigger, right? Because when they build, they will surely need a writer, they will need a marketing person, they will need a designer, they would even need other developers, right? So builders just make the ecosystem grow bigger and bigger. So, but it's not going to be limited to only builders, right? It's still going to content people, because of course we have to cater to other members of the community. If a startup village was supposed to be for only founders and product, right? But because of the Nigerian ecosystem, how big we are, we have to cater for the remaining, guild leads, guilds that we have, which is writer, content, and the like.
What actually keeps you going, right? In Web3, in Superteam, is that an aim or something you're trying to achieve, or like what's that core thing that's probably like a motivation for you to keep pushing in the Web3 space and Superteam also?
Bastard money. Money that does not have father or mother.
Okay.
But I'm joking, right? Or maybe not.
Okay.
All right. So but one of the things that keeps me in Superteam, right, is the fact that there is, everyone has a picture they're holding on to and they can see, right? And it's not far-fetched. For example, if you come to me and say, what do I see myself doing in the next 1 year to 2 years? Most likely I'll tell you a country lead,
Okay.
right, of a project, right? Because I can see the vision. Superteam has made me see the vision, and it's possible,
Okay.
right? Before now, and it's still my goal, right? Superteam was the one that made me popular on Twitter, on X. I've always wanted to be an OG in the space, just be collecting money, be quiet, not so much noise, but with all the tags mentioning, in fact, and I've blown, so to speak. It was not my goal and intention,
Yeah.
right? But beyond that, right, what I see is that Superteam is like a stepping stone, right, to achieve great things, right? You can literally see the next 2 to 3 years, and you know that it's close by. It's not far, right? And this applies to people that have bought into the vision, right? You can see yourself competing on a global scale.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen before now. Again, it's my own space, right? Disclaimer, it's my own X space, my own Twitter space. But before now, I've not seen so much projects, right, that could compete with the global scale, apart from those ones from Superteam Nigeria and Solana ecosystem, right? Right now we have projects like Patch Cash, we have Chatter Wallet now, Chatter app. We have projects like Riba Finance. These guys are actively building, and of course, with the mindset of the builders, we can see that the next 2 to 3 years they can achieve major things in the ecosystem, even from Nigeria, even from how the ecosystem is in Nigeria, right? You can see that. You can, as an outsider or as someone that just joined this Superteam, Nigeria ecosystem, you can literally see the future, right? Oh, okay, I have a stake in this, right? So, and that's what keeps me going, right? That I have a stake in this. With my little effort, right? I might not contribute as much as the leads, of course, because they are doing excellent work. Things that we might not be able to bear in the long run or like in a long time, right? But you have a stake, like everyone sees and everyone knows that, they have a stake in this. So having that picture at the front, at the back of your mind, makes you want to stay true to the vision.
Yeah. All right. So, final question now. A lot of people want to get known, right? You just mentioned that was not your goal at the time. So a lot of people, their mindset is just for people to know them. I want to get known, I want to be famous. So what do you think is something for the various guilds, Superteam has, content writers, even developers? So what do you think is something they are missing out, and something they can actually add to, probably for content creators now, for instance, something they can start doing to be able to compete, with the global, like in global scale, or to be able to also like put just like, you get the question?
Yeah, I get you.
So advice for various of the guilds.
Yeah. So one of the things I found when I got into Web3, right, I found out is that some people, again, context. Question was asked, context, before you drag me for X. Some people in the Web3 space are actually lazy. I came in, of course, via my experience, right? I even worked in marketing, right? I worked with an agency, right? So
was that Web2?
Web2, right? So someone can just have the opportunity and the following, and believe that their content is good, right? So not so much effort is being put into it, right? So for content, we want to see more storytelling. Let's see more storytelling. Let's see less of sitting in your chair, right? And with a mic, and there's no story. Just talking directly about the product. Let's see a storyline. Let's see the creative juices, right? For the writers, let's see you think around the, outside of the box. Let's see comics. Let's see magnas, right? Of course, this is both design and lies. You could create all of this. And that is why even bounties, right? A lot of controversies now around bounties, right? You need to break through that barrier, right? Let's see stories. Let's see a novel. Let's see scripts that is being acted out, right? About projects in the ecosystem, right? For developers, I can't necessarily talk more around that or about that because it's not my skill set, right? So what I would just say is basically let's see more of ideas. Let's forget about repetition, so to speak. There's a lot of repetition here and there, a lot of copying, which is not bad, right? But like I can literally tell some content when I watch it, I can trace it to where it began from, right? I say, this person first of all did this and that. Let's see more of storytelling, right? Rather than, and this applies to writers, right? I've spoken about magnas, spoken about comics. Like, let's see more of this. I'm sure I'm not the only one. We could see people, pay, right, for all of these services, even in the Nigeria ecosystem. So yeah.
All right. First of all, I'd like to thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming on the podcast today. It's been quite an interesting one. You know, we've been able to put or give a context to the fact that people having one or two things to say about grants, and also getting to know that you like your journey, because most people do not really know. They don't see all the top names and they be like, this guy is there, but they don't see, you know, like they don't really know the back end story of how you've gotten to the place that you are currently. So getting to know that you're also a writer, and then your journey evolving, all the journey in getting to where you are today, you know, how you've evolved. So it does show that each of us have to actually, you know, evolve in all our skill sets, and we also have to look out in terms of getting grants. Now we just have to bring it down to our own personal interest, right? We have to look out for just more than ourselves. Look out for what we can actually achieve with these grants. So, and I hope, you know, a newbie, anybody listening, you've been able to get an answer to the question that has been probably on your mind for quite a long time. And for those that had a thing or two to say about those that got grants, why not you put in the work and, you know, just join everyone putting in the work, and then see if you also get your own grant. You never know. You never can tell. So just an advice to each and every one of us to, you know, getting grants is not like the bus stop. A lot of people see it as a bus stop of just, you know, just get the grant and just go and relax. It's not the bus stop. You know, this is my mentality. It's not the bus stop. You get the grants, and then you are looking, you already have a picture of something you want to do before the grants should come. So to my fellow content creators and to everyone and then Superteam pushing, I will just, you know, continue pushing. And thank you once again, Monarch, for
your
coming.